Thus far, we've been talking about the being, about getting closer to our being, about awakening and getting in harmony with ourselves. And today we have to specifically define what the being really is.
As long as our level of being does not change radically, the repetition of all our miseries, sorrows, misfortunes, and tragedies will continue. All things, all circumstances that happen outside of us, on the scenario of life, are exclusively the reflection of what we carry inside. With good reason, we can affirm that the exterior is the reflection of the interior.
So when we say the level of the being, we need to imagine this like different levels on a staircase. Each and every single one of us has his own particular level of the being. And it is this level of the being that attracts the people into our lives. For example, a man that likes to drink will inevitably find himself with friends that also like to drink alcohol. It's like to say that alcohol is what connects those people together. If one of those individuals would stop drinking, would quit drinking, then there would be no reason for him to meet again with his old drinking friends, so to say. A similar example can be with somebody who likes violence. That individual would find himself talking and sharing conversations and events with people who share a similar taste for violence, either through fights, through street crime. So clearly we can see that those individuals, they get together because they share a similar level of the being.
The exterior image of a human being and the diverse circumstances that surround him are the exact result of his interior image and of his psychological processes.
We can define the level of the being like our vibration, like what we emanate outside. And with regards to this vibration, like attracts like. This is to say that every single one of the individuals and people who surround us is not by chance. It also has to do with the level that we find ourselves at. Following on this, people who live in poor neighborhoods, people who live in areas where there's a lot of poverty, where there's a lot of crime, there's a lot of violence, there's very little security, where everything is dirty. It is not by chance that those individuals are born there and that they find themselves in those scenarios throughout their entire lives. It has to do with their level of being. If one of those individuals were to change his or her particular level, inevitably they will begin to attract different circumstances into their lives. What this indicates us, and what we can comprehend by mere observation, is that if we want the circumstances surrounding us to change, then we need to change ourselves. The changes that we do in our own life, in our own personality, in our own way of being, will be reflected outside and impact on the people that we drag energetically to our life.
The scenes of our existence can be modified. One creates his own circumstances.
Thus, it is fundamental for us to comprehend that the particular situation that we find ourselves in, it is because we are attracting that every single minute with the way we are, with the way we speak, with the way we think, and with the way we behave. Every single thing that we think, that we say, that we pronounce, will inevitably cause an impact that will eventually have to return to its origin.
A harsh word follows us and later falls upon him who pronounced it, like a ray of vengeance.
Sometimes people complain about the government. They say, oh, the government in our country is this and that. However, if we follow this law of vibration or of level of beings, we can see that the people in a particular country, they all share similar characteristics in a psychological level. Each family shares similar characteristics. The people that we fall in love with, we share a very similar level. Whether we can see it or not, whether we like it or not, that is the reality. The people in a particular city, they also share certain defects and flaws that they have in common. And in a country, people also share certain characteristics or defects that they share in common overall. And by law, the leaders that they have, the governments that they end up having, it is because each and every single one of those citizens deserves that type of government. We like to think that we are free, that we have a chance to actually decide what we want in life, in government, in politics. But unfortunately, Gnosis teaches us that all of those events that happen outside, it is because we ourselves, every single citizen in a particular country, shares a responsibility with the ones that take power.
Dictators from the past, tyrants, were not unaware that it is easier to govern and enslave a nation of drinkers than that of abstainers.
We as human beings in general look for freedom outside, and we can look out throughout history. There were revolutions where people killed kings, individuals that belonged to the royal family, hoping that that will bring change, that will bring about a better life for the people, to help the people. So they go with weapons, they take on control through a coup, or they go to war and fight for a cause. Now, if we take a look at what happened afterwards, in the end, the only thing that changes is just the ones who are in power, that the situations stay the same or very similar. Those who are poor remain poor. Those who are rich remain rich or get richer. And there are very small changes with regards to bureaucracy.
Freedom is something that we have to achieve inside ourselves. Nobody can achieve it outside oneself.
Real freedom, real change can never come from the outside, because we will inevitably create our own circumstances around us. And when a government finally falls and circumstances improve, it is because the divine law is allowing that to happen. And although we might consider like going to war is going to be the solution for that particular nation who is being oppressed, who's not being allowed to be free, in reality, the situation that those people are having in that particular nation or place is because they themselves are responsible for that. And that those governments that are at that particular place, in that particular point in time, it is because it has to be like that. We cannot change the world outside unless we first change ourselves. It is absurd to make war to obtain peace.
It is ridiculous, frighteningly ridiculous, to make wars in the name of peace.
If we look how many times throughout history we had wars, people being killed, men going to kill other men in the name of freedom, liberty, equality, etc. It will never be the solution. The solution is always to change ourselves, and to blame the government, to blame society, it is ridiculous as well. When we do that, the only thing we're doing is just missing the chance to actually look inside, look inwards, and try to identify the elements that we share in common with those that we don't like.
Violence generates more violence. Hatred produces more hatred. Peace cannot be conquered. Peace cannot be the result of violence. Peace comes to us only when we dissolve the ego, when we destroy within us all those psychological factors that produce war.
So it is fundamental that we realize what our level of being really is, so that we can change that and improve. If maybe we are all messed up and we do not really care about hygiene, inevitably the people that are going to surround us is people with similar characteristics. So if we want to live in a better neighborhood with cleaner streets, with people who have better personal hygiene, then what I need to do is start having that in my own life, incorporating that aspect. It is completely absurd to try and expect for a different circumstance in my life if I do not change myself. If I'm lazy, if I do not work hard enough, how can I expect myself to be associated with those individuals who are at the top that work really hard 24/7? If I'm an individual that does not care about the planet, that does not care about recycling, how can I expect to be associated with those individuals who are trying to solve the problem of climate change and contamination? It is fundamental for us to identify on what level, on what position of the staircase we find ourselves at in order to really create change inside.
The strong tendency to blame others is a barrier, an obstacle for the comprehension of our own mistakes.
So, on this self-knowledge course, we of course have to change our lives, have to improve our level of being. And it is fundamental for us to identify where we find ourselves in this magical staircase. Life is a gigantic mirror where we can see our own psychology by observing and paying attention to the types of people that are surrounding us.
Our life is a creation of our mind.
So, that was all we have for you today on this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. As usual, thank you for watching and see you next time. Take care.